The galaxy was not quiet, but it was careful. Every star system had ships moving, trading, watching, and reporting. Every race believed they were powerful, advanced, and safe. But there was one name that made even the strongest fleets slow down. That name was Earth. No one spoke about Earth openly in council meetings. It was always mentioned in whispers, in old data files, or in warning reports. The most common sentence in those reports was simple: "Do not wake humanity." No one knew who wrote this warning first. It was not signed by any empire, not linked to any council leader. It was just there, repeated again and again in different languages, like a message passed through fear instead of law. Some said Earth was destroyed long ago. Some said Earth had closed itself from the galaxy. And some believed Earth was still alive but hiding, waiting, watching. But no one was brave enough to find the truth. The Galactic Council had hundreds of member species. Some were ancient, some were new, some were highly advanced. They controlled trade routes, star maps, and deep space exploration. But even they treated Earth as a forbidden zone, a system marked in red on every navigation map. Sol system, approach prohibited. Young officers often asked why. They wanted answers. They wanted missions. They wanted glory. But every time they asked about Earth, senior commanders changed the topic. Or they simply said, "You are not ready to understand." That answer made Earth even more mysterious, and mystery always creates curiosity. In one council chamber, a new commander arrived. He was young, intelligent, and full of confidence. He studied war records, victories, and fallen civilizations, and in every file about Earth, he saw only fear, not facts. He did not like fear without reason. One day, he stood before the council map of the galaxy. He pointed at the small blue dot marked Earth, and he said, "Why do we fear this world so much?" No one answered him directly. An old council member only said, "Because we learned what happens when it wakes." The commander laughed softly. He said, "A sleeping world cannot harm an empire." His words echoed in the chamber, but no one agreed. Still, the council allowed a small test, not a war, not an invasion, just observation. 3 scout ships were selected, each one heavily armored, fully equipped and trusted. Their mission was simple: approach Earth, scan it, and return safely. The ships left quietly, without ceremony. No one celebrated, no one cheered. Only silence followed them as they entered deep space, towards the forbidden system of Sol. Days passed, then weeks. The council waited for reports. At first, everything seemed normal. The ships reported stable travel, clear space, and no resistance. Then they reached the final boundary near Earth, a region marked as Unknown Interference Zone. The first ship entered orbit. Its sensors locked onto Earth instantly. From space, Earth looked peaceful. Blue oceans, white clouds, green land, no signs of war, no signs of danger. The crew relaxed for a moment, but then strange things began to happen. Communication systems started losing clarity. Navigation data flickered, and external cameras showed static for a few seconds at a time. The captain ordered a full scan of the planet, but every scan returned incomplete results. It was as if something was blocking understanding itself. On the surface, cities were visible. Lights at night, movement, life, civilization. But there were no signals of space communication, no defense response. It felt like Earth was ignoring them completely. Then, without warning, all 3 scout ships received the same signal. It was not a coded transmission, not a language translation. It was a simple voice message, clear and calm. "Why did you wake us?" The crew froze. No one understood what it meant. Before anyone could respond, systems began to shut down one by one. Engines failed, communication died, and sensors went dark. And then silence covered the ships completely. No explosion was recorded. No distress signal was sent. Just silence, heavy and complete. Back on Earth, deep beneath the surface, something changed. Old systems that had not been active for thousands of years began to wake. Lights turned on in buried structures. Machines started moving again. And somewhere inside the planet, humanity began to open its eyes. The Galactic Council was not built for fear. It was built for control, order, and expansion. Hundreds of worlds sat under its influence, each paying respect to its laws for a long time. The Council believed nothing in the galaxy could surprise them anymore. But Earth was different. Earth was the only world that never joined, never traded, never answered. It simply existed, silent and sealed inside its system. So, in Council records, Earth was always marked with one warning line. Do not wake humanity. No explanation followed that line. No history file, no war record, no enemy profile. Just that sentence, repeated again and again like a broken memory. The young commander who studied Earth was not afraid. He believed fear without reason was weakness. And he wanted to prove that the Council was wrong. So he spoke again in the main chamber. He said, "If Earth is alive, then we should see it, understand it, or use it." His words made the older members uncomfortable. One of the oldest council leaders finally replied. His voice was slow and tired. "We tried to understand Earth once," he said, "and we lost more than ships." The chamber went silent. But the young commander did not stop. He asked, "What did you lose?" No one answered him. Instead, the council approved a small mission. Not to invade, not to attack, only to observe Earth closely. 3 scout ships were selected. Each ship came from a different strong species. Each one had advanced scanning systems, cloaking shields, and weapon defense grids. They were not ordinary ships, they were elite observation units. Before departure, the Council gave one final instruction. Do not engage with Earth under any condition. The commander smiled at this rule. He thought it was unnecessary, because in his mind, Earth was just a quiet, forgotten world. The ships left Council space and entered deep travel lanes. Stars stretched into lines as they moved faster than normal light travel. For days, everything seemed normal. No danger, no interference, no unknown signals. It looked like Earth was just another dead zone in space. But as they got closer, small things began to change. Navigation systems started recalibrating themselves without command. Internal logs showed minor errors that fixed themselves instantly. And crew members reported strange feelings, like being watched. Still, no one considered it serious. They were too advanced to fear an empty planet. When they finally reached the outer boundary of Sol System, the first ship slowed down. The view ahead was quiet space, dark and empty. Earth appeared in the distance, blue and calm. No defense stations, no visible fleets, no warning signals. It looked harmless, almost too peaceful. The captain of the first ship gave the order to scan. All systems, full planetary analysis. At first, the scans worked perfectly. Data came in fast. Oceans, continents, atmosphere, weather patterns. Everything matched a stable civilization. But then something strange happened. The deeper the scans went, the more unstable the data became. As if Earth was rejecting observation itself, second by second, information started disappearing. Maps turned incomplete. Signals broke apart. Even memory logs inside the ship began to glitch. The crew tried to switch systems manually, but every system gave the same result. Access denied. There was no external attack, no visible enemy, yet the ship felt like it was being pushed away without force. The second and third ships reported the same problem. All 3 ships were now circling Earth at different angles, trying to understand what was wrong. Then something unexpected happened. A signal appeared, not from space, but from Earth itself. It was not strong, not loud, but very clear, and it was the same message for all 3 ships. Observation detected. Why did you wake us? The message was simple, but it changed everything. The crews felt a sudden pressure. Not physical, but mental, like something vast had opened its eyes and noticed them. Alarms started going off across all ships, but no enemy was visible, no missiles were fired. Number fleets appeared. Still, systems began shutting down one by one. Engines stopped responding, shields weakened, communication lines failed. And panic slowly entered the crews for the first time. The young commander watched all reports in silence. For the first time, he felt something he never felt before. Uncertainty. And far below Earth, deep inside the planet, something long buried had already started to rise again. The 3 scout ships were no longer confident. What started as a simple observation mission had turned into something unclear, something the crews could not explain, even with their most advanced systems. They were still in orbit around Earth, but now the planet did not feel passive anymore. It felt aware, like it knew they were there. The captain of the first ship ordered a full system check. Every officer worked fast, scanning logs, running diagnostics, trying to find the problem. But everything showed the same result: no external attack, no known interference source. That made it worse, because in space, silence without reason is always dangerous. Outside the ship, Earth looked calm. Blue oceans reflected sunlight. Clouds moved slowly. Cities glowed in the night side. Nothing suggested danger. Nothing suggested war. But inside the ships, fear was growing. Because technology was failing in ways that did not make sense. It was not breaking. It was refusing. One engineer spoke softly. "This is not malfunction. This is rejection." No one understood what he meant until the first real event happened. The second ship suddenly lost all external communication. Its screen went black for exactly 3 seconds. When it returned, half of its recorded data was gone. At the same time, the third ship reported something even stranger. Their sensors detected a pulse coming from Earth. Not a weapon pulse, not a radar signal, but something deeper. It was like a heartbeat, slow, steady, and massive. The captain of the first ship demanded visual confirmation. "Show me Earth's surface live feed," he ordered. The holographic display activated, and for a few seconds, everything looked normal again. Cities, lights, movement, normal life. Then the image flickered, and something changed. For just one frame, the camera did not show cities. It showed structures underground, massive and endless. Machines, cities, and something like sleeping chambers stretching across deep layers of Earth. The image vanished instantly. The system auto-corrected itself, and the feed returned to normal surface view. But every crew member had already seen it. No one spoke for a moment. The silence inside the ship became heavier than space outside. Then, without warning, every ship received the same transmission again. This time stronger, clearer, and more direct. "Why did you wake us?" The message repeated again and again, not like a question anymore, but like a recognition, like something waking up and realizing it had been disturbed. Suddenly, systems across all 3 ships began to fail together. Navigation grids froze, propulsion output dropped, shields weakened without command. A junior officer shouted, "We are losing control. Nothing is responding." The captain tried to send a distress signal back to the council, but the communication channel was already gone. It was as if Earth had cut them off from the rest of the galaxy. Then something worse happened. The ships were no longer orbiting freely. They were being held in place, slowly locked into position around Earth. Not by gravity, not by force, but by precision, like something was arranging them. One engineer whispered, "We are not flying anymore. We are being placed." Inside the first ship, alarms kept ringing, but no one knew what to do. Weapons systems were ready, but there was nothing to fire at. No enemy ships, no missiles, no visible attack, just Earth, silent and watching. Then a new signal arrived. This one was different, shorter, colder. Observation completed. Containment protocol active. The crew froze. No one understood the word containment. At that exact moment, all 3 ships stopped moving completely. Their engines still worked, but space itself refused their motion. Outside, Earth slowly turned, bringing its dark side into view, and for the first time, faint structures could be seen on the surface. Not natural formations, but patterns, hidden grids spread across continents. Then the ship's sensors detected something rising from Earth orbit, massive objects long dormant, coming alive one by one. Old satellites, not from any known empire, but far older. The systems labeled them unknown origin, ancient technology, human design. The captain of the first ship finally spoke. His voice was no longer confident. "This is not first contact," he said slowly. "This is something restarting. And deep inside Earth, far below oceans and continents, something inside the sleeping chambers began to open its eyes again." Deep inside Earth, there was no sound, not because nothing existed, but because everything was controlled. Layers under layers of rock, metal, and sealed vaults stretched across the planet's core regions. For thousands of years, these structures had stayed silent, not broken, not destroyed, just paused, like a system waiting for the right command to continue. That command had now arrived. Old reactors that had not been active since ancient times began to light up, not with fire or explosion, but with slow awakening pulses. Machines that had no maintenance for millennia restarted themselves. And inside those sealed places, humanity was still there, not as a living civilization on the surface, but as something preserved, stored, protected. Rows upon rows of chambers stretched across vast underground cities. Each chamber held human forms inside stasis fields. Not dead, not alive in normal sense, but paused between states. Their bodies were untouched by time. Their minds held in deep controlled sleep, a sleep designed not for peace, but for survival. Above them, the planet's surface remained calm, but below, something was changing. Systems that monitored galactic activity had finally triggered full activation. A signal long expected, but never hoped for. It had a single meaning: external contact confirmed. That signal had now been received from orbit. Across the underground network, warning lights turned from blue to red. Not panic red, but awakening red. A color that meant one thing: the world outside had arrived again. In one central chamber, a massive structure stood. It was not a weapon, not a ship, not a machine in normal sense. It was a command core, built to decide humanity's response after long sleep, and now it was active. Data began flowing into it: scans from orbit, ship readings, unknown signals, interference patterns. The system processed it silently. No human eyes were awake yet, but the system was thinking. Then, deep in the sleeping chambers, the first signs of human awakening began. Capsules opened slowly, releasing controlled light and mist. Inside, human figures moved slightly for the first time in centuries. Their eyes opened, not confused, not weak, but alert, as if no time had passed at all. Because for them, it had not. Time inside stasis was not the same as time outside. They had been waiting for a single condition: contact from outside the solar defense boundary. Command councils, all coming online again, not as nations, but as one system, one human structure. A voice echoed through underground networks, calm, deep, and unified. Status report, it said. One by one, systems responded. Orbital detection confirmed. Unknown vessels present. Containment engaged. Another voice followed. No emotion, only logic. How many? The answer came instantly. 3 confirmed. Additional unknown interference detected in outer orbit. There was a pause. Then the command core spoke again. Then responded simply: they are afraid. For a moment, silence filled the underground network. Not confusion, but calculation. The scout ship still floated helplessly, locked in position, unable to retreat, unable to advance, watching a planet that no longer felt silent. And then it happened. A new signal was sent from Earth. Not to the ships, but to the entire galaxy. It bypassed normal communication channels completely. Every receiving system across nearby space lit up at once, even systems not designed to detect Earth. Inside the ships, the crews felt it instantly. Not through speakers, but through every system at once, like Earth itself had spoken directly into their machines. One officer whispered, "This is not a reply." The captain finished his thought. "This is activation." And deep below Earth, in the command core, humanity finally completed its full awakening sequence, not as survivors, not as victims, but as something else entirely. A civilization that had chosen sleep on purpose, and now it was awake again. Far away from Earth, the Galactic Council space was no longer calm. The moment the Earth signal appeared across systems, everything changed. What was once a controlled and ordered network of civilizations turned into confusion. In the main council chamber, alarms were not supposed to exist, but now warning lights flashed across every wall. Data streams from scout ships were breaking, rewriting, and disappearing at the same time. The young commander who had once called Earth a sleeping world stood frozen. His confidence was gone, replaced by silence and disbelief, because the ships he sent were no longer responding. 3 elite scout vessels, gone silent inside Earth orbit. No escape signal, no distress call, no debris field. Just perfect silence, and that silence was louder than any explosion. The council leaders gathered quickly, ancient beings, war survivors, strategists of thousands of conflicts. But even they were now looking at each other without answers. One of them finally spoke. "This is not a failure of ships," he said slowly. "This is a failure of understanding." The words made the room colder. Because it meant the problem was not technology, but something deeper. Then the Earth message arrived. It spread through council systems without permission, without delay. Every screen, every terminal, every communication hub displayed the same words. Contact acknowledged. No threat followed, no demand, no warning. Just recognition. Like Earth had simply noticed them now, but that made it worse. Because if Earth was only acknowledging them now, it meant Earth had already been aware of them before. The Council tried to respond. Peace signals were prepared. Translation layers activated. Diplomatic protocols initiated. But every outgoing message failed before leaving their own space. It was as if Earth had closed the door without moving. In the command section of the Council, panic began to grow, not loud panic, but controlled fear, the kind that spread slowly through trained minds. Officers reported that external navigation routes near Sol system were disappearing from maps. One analyst spoke in shock. "The region is rewriting itself." No one understood what that meant, but they could see it happening. Trade routes near Earth were vanishing, replaced with blank zones. The commander who once mocked Earth now requested full military readiness. But even that request felt meaningless, because they did not know what they were preparing for. At the same time, across deep space, other civilizations began reacting. Old warnings hidden in archives were suddenly being unlocked. Messages from forgotten wars were reappearing in systems that had not accessed them in centuries. Every message carried the same line: "Do not wake humanity." But now it was too late. In council space, fear turned into debate. Some believed Earth was testing them. Some believed Earth was defending itself. And some believed something far worse, that Earth was not reacting at all. It was simply continuing what it had already prepared long ago. A senior strategist finally asked the question no one wanted to speak. If they are awake now, what were they doing before? No one answered, because the files on Earth had no answer either. Only silence, erased history, and incomplete records. Then the scout ship logs finally returned a fragment. A single recovered transmission from orbit before communication was lost. It played in the chamber, distorted but clear enough. A human voice, calm and direct. "Why did you wake us?" The message repeated again and again, but now it no longer sounded like confusion. It sounded like judgment beginning to form. The council chamber went silent again, because now they understood something important. Earth was not asking for explanation, it was asking for responsibility. Outside the council station, distant sensors picked up movement near Sol system. Massive energy signatures were activating, far larger than any known fleet. But no ships were visible yet, just space itself responding. One officer whispered, "They are not sending fleets." Another finished the thought in fear. "They are building presence." And in that moment, every civilization connected to the Galactic Council understood one thing clearly. Earth was no longer asleep, and whatever had been sleeping beneath it was now fully aware of the galaxy watching. Space around Earth was no longer empty. It looked the same from far away, dark and silent, but something had changed inside it. Every system watching Sol felt it, even if they could not explain it. It was like the universe itself had tightened, not louder, not brighter, just more aware. Inside the Galactic Council networks, every screen stayed locked on Earth. No one dared to disconnect, because disconnecting felt like missing something important. And then it happened. A signal formed, not like normal communication. It did not travel through channels or frequencies. It simply appeared inside every system that was capable of receiving data. It was not hacked, not broken in, not transmitted in normal sense. It was just there, as if it had always existed and only now became visible. The Council systems labeled it instantly, Origin, Earth. But even that label felt uncertain. The message started simple. No decoration, no warning tone, no emotion at first. Galactic networks detected. Every listener paused, because it confirmed something important. Earth was not just aware of nearby ships. It was aware of the entire connected galaxy. Then the message continued. Species identified. Systems mapped. Response history analyzed. Data screens across the Council began filling with impossible speed. It felt like something was reading them faster than they could understand themselves. One analyst shouted, "This is not a broadcast, this is a scan." But before anyone could react, the message continued again. You were told not to wake us. Silence hit every chamber at once, because now the phrase had returned, but with meaning behind it. Not confusion anymore, not fear anymore, but recognition. Every race in the Council knew that line. Do not wake humanity. But none of them had ever known why. Now Earth itself was speaking it back. The message paused for a moment, not because it stopped, but because something inside it felt like it was calculating memory. Then it continued. We were not asleep because we were weak. At that moment, systems across space flickered slightly, as if even the networks themselves were reacting to the statement. The voice remained calm. Almost too calm for something that controlled entire planetary systems. We were asleep because we chose not to remain awake. That line confused many listeners. Some translated it differently. Some repeated it in disbelief. A senior Council member whispered, "They chose it." But no one explained what that meant. Then the message deepened. Previous cycle outcome, unacceptable. The words appeared on every console like a warning. But no one knew what cycle meant. The systems tried to cross-reference Earth history, but most records were missing, corrupted, or locked behind unknown security layers. Then another line appeared. Containment protocol maintained until external contact breach. That word changed everything. Containment, not survival, not hiding, not isolation. Containment, as if humanity had been holding something back, not protecting itself. In Council space, panic began to return. Not loud panic, but slow realization spreading through ranks. One officer said quietly, "They were not waiting for us." Another replied even softer, "They were waiting for permission to stop waiting." Back near Earth, the scout ships remained frozen in orbit. Their systems fully locked, but still receiving every word. Then the message shifted again. Assessment complete. No one dared interrupt. Threat level classification. Unknown. That statement caused confusion, because normally Earth should have classified them. Not the other way around, but humanity continued. Your approach triggered dormant response systems. A pause followed, shorter this time. Sleep cycle terminated. The meaning was clear now. Humanity was not waking by accident. It was responding to protocol. Then the final part of the message came. Stand by for observation verification. And suddenly, space around Earth changed again. Not visually at first, but structurally. Sensors across the galaxy detected something massive activating. But not ships, not weapons, not fleets. Something embedded in space itself. Old systems, hidden structures, long-range networks that had never been active in recorded history. The Council realized too late. Earth was not sending a message. It was activating its environment. And in that moment, every civilization watching understood the same truth. They were not witnessing first contact. They were witnessing re-entry. Humanity had not arrived. It had returned. Space around Earth was no longer neutral. It had structure now. Like invisible layers were locking into place. Every race watching from afar could feel it, even without sensors. The scout ships still floated in orbit, but they were no longer the center of attention. They were just small pieces inside something much larger waking up. Inside Galactic Council space, every system was on full alert. Not because they saw an enemy fleet, but because they could not understand what was happening anymore. Maps near Sol system were no longer stable. Trade routes were disappearing and reappearing. And every attempt to scan deeper into Earth's region failed instantly. It was as if reality itself refused entry. The council leaders gathered one last time, but the atmosphere was no longer political. It was survival thinking now. One of the oldest members spoke first, his voice slow and heavy. "We made a mistake calling this first contact." No one argued, because they all knew it was not first contact anymore. The young commander who had once mocked Earth stood silent in the corner. His earlier confidence was gone completely. Now he only watched the data streams, trying to understand where it went wrong. Then Earth spoke again. The signal came without delay. It filled every system again. But this time it was different, stronger, clearer, and structured like a final statement. Verification initiated. Across the scout ships, sensors activated without command, not controlled by crews anymore, but by external override. One engineer shouted, "They are accessing our systems directly," but no one could stop it. Then the message continued. "Foreign presence confirmed within containment perimeter." That line caused confusion again, because no one had ever heard Earth call its own space a containment perimeter. But now it was clear. Earth was not just a planet. It was a controlled zone, and something had just entered it. Suddenly, the space around Earth lit up with faint structures. Not ships, not missiles, not fleets, but grids, patterns. And invisible frameworks become invisible for the first time. They were massive, extending far beyond orbit, spanning distances that no known empire had ever constructed. A senior analyst in the council whispered, "These were always here," another replied. "We were never meant to see them." And that was when the final truth started forming. The Earth message returned again. Containment architecture active, then a pause, like something thinking carefully before revealing final information. Purpose: prevent external system collapse event recurrence. The council tried to decode it instantly, but the meaning was too large, too undefined. Collapse event. Recurrence, containment, none of it matched known history. Then Earth delivered the final piece, previous cycle result. Galaxy destabilization event prevented through self-isolation protocol. Silence spread across every listening system, because now they understood fragments of something impossible. Humanity had not been hiding from the galaxy. It had been holding the galaxy together from inside Earth's silence. One officer finally spoke, voice shaking. "They are not a new civilization." Another finished the thought. "They are the correction of an old one." At that moment, every scout ship in orbit received one final update. Their engines unlocked, their systems restored, their communication reopened, but no one moved. Because now they were afraid of what movement might trigger. Then Earth spoke one last time. The message was short, direct, and absolute. Assessment complete. A pause followed, heavier than anything before it. Threat classification updated. The council waited, unable to breathe in silence. Then the final line appeared across all systems in the galaxy. Status: non-hostile but dangerous by existence history. And then, unexpectedly, monitoring continues. No attack followed, no destruction, no invasion, just observation. But it was clear now. Earth was not reacting to the galaxy anymore. It was managing it. The scout ships slowly regained partial control. But none of them attempted to leave immediately. Because leaving now felt like being allowed to escape, not surviving a battle. Back in council space, records began rewriting themselves automatically, old warnings reappearing with new clarity. "Do not wake humanity." And now for the first time, everyone understood why that line existed. It was not a threat from humans. It was a warning from the past, written by civilizations that no longer existed. Earth had not been feared because of what it could do. It was feared because of what it had already done once before, and now it was awake again. Not angry, not confused, just aware and watching. The galaxy had not discovered humanity. Humanity had simply opened its eyes to check if the galaxy was still safe to exist in.